Nestled inside a Leesburg residential development along the Potomac River in scenic London County, the Balls Bluff Battlefield Regional Park is an important stop for historians, hikers, and Civil War buffs. The Battle of Balls Bluff was an early battle of the American Civil War, fought in London County, Virginia on October 21st, 1861. It was a battle in which Union Army forces under Major General George B. McClellan suffered a humiliating defeat. The operation was planned as a minor reconnaissance across the Potomac to establish whether Confederate forces were occupying the strategically important position of Leesburg, Virginia. A false report of an unguarded Confederate camp encouraged Brigadier General Charles Pomeroy Stone to order a raid, which resulted in a clash with enemy forces. The Battle of Balls Bluff involved Union troops led by Charles P. Stone and Confederates led by Nathan G. Evans. Their forces were roughly the same in numbers, yet the loss of life is remarkably one-sided. Union troops numbered 1,720 to 1,709 Confederate troops. Their estimated casualties for the Union was 1,002 to only 149 casualties for the Confederates. The battle was a clear-cut victory for the South. The Union losses, although modest by later standards, alarmed Congress, which set up a joint committee on the conduct of the war, a body which would provoke years of bitter political infighting. On the evening of October the 20th, 1861, Union Army Commander George B. McClellan ordered General Charles Stone to send a scouting party across the Potomac River to identify the positions of Confederate Colonel Nathan Evans' troops near Leesburg. In the darkness, the party's inexperienced leader, Captain Chase Philbrick, mistook the line of trees for a line of tents and reported that he had stumbled across an unguarded Confederate camp, of which he did not. Early the next day, Colonel Charles Devens was sent across the river to attack the camp, and after realizing that the supposed camp was nothing but a line of trees, his men encountered a company of Mississippi infantry and a skirmish began. Colonel Edward Baker, a U.S. Senator, decided to reinforce Devens, but with only 4 small boats available to transport men, Union reinforcements arrived slowly. Evans used a federal delay to organize his men, and when Colonel Baker was killed in the afternoon, Union resistance crumbled. The victorious Confederates drove the Yankees over the bluff and into the Potomac, where many drowned and hundreds surrendered, rather than risk escape into the river. The battle, while small in scale, had major political implications that would haunt the Union Army for the rest of the war. The Federals lost 223 killed, 226 wounded, and 553 prisoners. The Confederates suffered fewer than 150 total casualties. And it all happened because an inexperienced officer that thought the trees were tents. Recently restored, a variety of hiking trails, interpretive markers, and a small cemetery make visiting Balls Bluff a can't-miss experience. Now a regional park and national cemetery, Balls Bluff has a total of 54 men buried on the property, making it the 3rd smallest national cemetery, and some of them are said to still wander around the park. Apparitions of soldiers in uniform have been reported by multiple visitors over the years. The battle was over, but tales of the unquiet dead were about to begin. Reports from the 1860s record the ghostly plodding of hooves from unseen horses and the unmistakable rattle of cavalry sabers. Perhaps they were just precursor to the Phantom Union cavalry that manifested itself to the horror of early visitors to the battlefield. And L.B. Taylor Jr., the Dean of Virginia Ghost Stories, recounts many tales in his book Civil War Ghost of Virginia. In the early 1950s, some thrill-seeking teenagers drove out to the bluff, but were forced to quickly retreat at the sounds of terrible screams from a source no one could pinpoint. They ran back to their car, started it, put it in gear, but it would not move, as if something unseen and otherworldly was holding it hostage. The event lasted for several minutes, then as if it suddenly released the car, it lurched forward, and they were able to speed off. Once home, they inspected the car, and to their horror they found that 2 huge muddy handprints from gloved hands in recently dried clay were on each side of the rear of the car. Evidence, perhaps, of something more sinister than ghostly soldiers residing at the Buff? Possibly. Get this, less than a year after the battle, a Maine soldier in the area of Harrison's Island wrote in his diary that comrades on picket duty reported hearing unsettling noises from the woods and the river shore. Unearthly, he called them. Boatmen on the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, which ran alongside the Potomac on the Maryland shore, began calling this section of the canal Haunted House Bend. They reported screams and moans emanating from the area. Mules towing the barges became spooked. Perhaps they saw the red-bearded man that's often reported, or an African-American woman often appearing, then disappearing, as reported by those who traveled this section of the C&O Canal. All in all, a visit to Balls Bluff battlefield is really a must-do. It's a lesser-known battle, but one of extreme importance, particularly very early in the war, and a location that has many accounts of paranormal experiences and ghostly, haunted happenings. So if you are in the Leesburg, Virginia area, I would highly recommend a visit to the Balls Bluff battlefield.